Yes, Rihanna is grade 9 student. She is going to TOPS program at Bloor. She looks very enthusiastic and she is doing her best and very punctual. Anytime I see the mail comes from her, morning. So I am sure that she is not sleeping that late like all of you or most of you. So I am sure that she is doing her best. You can start. Johnny, video.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, go to presentation mode, is it? No, presentation mode.
Okay, so as you guys probably know, my name is Reanna, and today I'm going to be teaching you about the very basics of the human nervous system. Almost every multicellular organism has a nervous system, except some super simple ones like mesosomes, placosomes, and sponges. But today I'm going to be talking about the human nervous system specifically. It's the biggest distinction. Our nervous systems are the biggest distinctions between humans and other animals because it helps us do things that no other animals can do, such as write novels and cry from emotion. So what exactly is the nervous system? The most basic definition would be that it's a complex network of cells that work together to send messages throughout your body on what you saw, smelled, heard, felt, tasted, or on what to do. So you use your nervous system basically every single second of your life, and you need it to live. It helps with essential activities. It helps your lungs breathe. It helps your stomach digest, and it also tells your heart to pump. It also helps you do other more basic activities such as waking up in the morning, cooking breakfast, eating breakfast, reading, listening to the radio, cleaning your house, smelling flowers, etc. So there's two main parts of the nervous system. There's a central nervous system, which is just your brain and spinal cord, and then there's a peripheral nervous system, which is everything else. Your nervous system has three main functions, which help you do everything, which help you do every single basic action. There's sensory input, which uses your five senses, such as smelling, seeing, touching, tasting, and hearing. So you use your five senses to input information into your brain, and then comes integration. Integration is where you process information, you make decisions on what you saw, you decide how to react and what to do with that information. And then once you decide what to do with that information, then you do whatever you decided on. That's data/motor output. Data output is when you display a message, an emotion, or any type of data using like words, body language, or any other method of communication. And then motor output is when you physically do something using your muscles. So in this picture, the person is looking at a glass of water. They're using sight to do so. So the information they're inputting into their brain is that there's a glass of water in front of them. Then comes integration. Their brain can choose to ignore that glass of water, or they may think things like, am I thirsty? Does this water belong to me? Is it safe to drink, etc.? And then comes data/motor output. So if your brain concludes that you're thirsty and the water is drinkable, then you're most likely going to use your arm muscles to pick up the glass of water, put it to your mouth, and drink the water. So sensory input and data input are ruled by your peripheral nervous system, and your central nervous system is in charge of integration, which is pretty obvious since integration is done by your brain, and your brain is a part of the central nervous system. So we already divided the nervous system into two parts: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. I also mentioned that the central nervous system can be divided. The central nervous system has two parts: the brain and the spinal cord. So your brain receives and processes sensory information, initiates responses, stores memories, generates thoughts and emotions. The spinal cord basically delivers messages between the brain and the peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system has two main types of neurons. There's motor neurons and sensory neurons. Motor neurons deliver messages from the brain to the peripheral nervous system, and sensory neurons deliver messages from the peripheral nervous system to the brain. So the motor neurons can be divided further into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. So somatic nervous system is basically things that you can control, such as skeletal muscle movements, and autonomic nervous system are things that you can't consciously control. This is what keeps your heart pumping, your lungs breathing, and your stomach churning. So the autonomic nervous system can be further divided into sympathetic division and parasympathetic division. So these, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, they work on the same organs but in different ways. The sympathetic nervous system is what makes you, what causes you excitement, stress, and nervousness. And the parasympathetic division does the exact opposite. It's what tries to keep you relaxed and calm you down. So next we're going to be talking about the different types of cells in the nervous system. The nervous system is made from nervous tissue, and the nervous tissue is very, very tightly packed with cells. There's only about 20% empty space in the tissue. So the most known type of cell, which most of you guys have heard of, is the neuron, also known as nerve cell or nerve fiber. So this is what does most of the heavy lifting. They respond to stimuli and transmit signals. So there's different parts of the neuron, but the main three parts are the nerve body, the cell body, which contains all the basic organelles of any animal cells, such as nucleus, ribosomes, cytoplasm, mitochondria, etc. Then there's dendrites. These are like the listeners. So these pick up information from other neurons and delivers it to the cell body. Then there's the axon and the axon terminal, which is like the talkers. So the information goes from here into the axon terminal, and then the axon terminal delivers the message to the next neuron. So there's lots of different kinds specialized for different parts of the body. Some examples are unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar neurons. The one in this picture is a multipolar neuron, and they also come in different sizes. But here are some things that all neurons have in common. They have very long lifespans. There's lots of debate on about whether or not you're born with all the neurons you'll ever have. But most of the neurons in your brain, at least, live as long as you do. They're irreplaceable, so it's very good that they have long lifespans. And they're ameiotic, which means that they can't reproduce or divide once they take on their given roles in the nervous system. They have high metabolisms and large appetites. 25% of the calories and 20 to 25% of the oxygen you breathe in every day is consumed by your brain because they need a steady supply of glucose and oxygen. So the next type of cell we're going to be talking about is the neuroglia or glial cells. So these cells are more common than the neurons. They outnumber neurons 10 to 1, and 50% of your brain mass is from glial cells. So their main purpose is to completely surround and protect neurons and hold them together. But there's also different types of glial cells which have different tasks. There's 4 different types in the central nervous system and 2 different types in the peripheral nervous system. So in the central nervous system, the first one we're going to be talking about are astrocytes. So these cells, they anchor neurons to their blood supply, and they help exchange materials between neurons and capillaries. And they're found in the central nervous system. Also in the central nervous system are microglia or microglial cells. They're thorny looking and they're smaller than astrocytes, and they protect the brain and spinal cord from invading microorganisms. So they're basically they're the main source of immune defense in the central nervous system. Then there's the epidermal cells, also in the central nervous system. So these cells line cavities in the brain and spinal cord. They produce discharge and circulate cerebral spinal fluid, which is a clear, odorless fluid, and which which cushions and protects your brain and spine from trauma. They produce about 500 milliliters of cerebrospinal fluid each day. Okay, the last type of glial cell in the in the central nervous system are oligodendrocytes. So these guys, they wrap around neurons and creating a insulating barrier called myelin sheath. Myelin is a type of fat. Now moving on to the peripheral nervous system. The first type of cell in the peripheral nervous system we're going to be talking about are satellite cells, which is this one over here. These guys surround and protect neurons in the peripheral nervous system. Then beside it is Schwann cells, also in the peripheral nervous system. They're similar to oligodendrocytes because they also create an insulating barrier called the myelin sheath. But the the myelin sheath that they make is specifically for the axon of a neuron. So as you can see, this is a picture of a neuron, and this is the axon, which I talked about. So these purple circles in the these purple circles are Schwann cells, and the yellow is myelin. So this is very important. The myelin sheath that they create is very important because it speeds up signals in the neuron, and they also stop the axon of a neuron from touching other axons of the neuron, because if this axon touches another axon, that can create a false signal, and false signals aren't good. So there's a lot more to learn about the nervous system, but that was like a very small introduction, and it's the end of my presentation for now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. Not only that, you know that I am in this business for long 20, 30 years. I did not know all of these.
Oh.
Some of them is unknown to me even. Okay. So I think that I am asking questions from others to make sense. First is Josh. Take the lead that ask some questions or ask what is need to know more. Go.
Okay, so that was a really good presentation. Good job on that. Do you go over like the different parts of the brain, like the different lobes and their functions?
Oh, no, I didn't go over it in this presentation.
Yeah, maybe that could have been a good idea, like kind of seeing like how the brain is divided and like what each part does. But overall, I think it was a really good presentation. So good.
Yeah, in fact, I found that really what she did great job is really micro level, cellular level things. That was great thing. But also overall structure she gave a kind of understanding. But it was a little bit good to have a brain things, because brain is the central nervous system. That's the main part of the nervous system. But anyway, peripheral, how it's controlled, very great present. Oishi?
Yeah, it was really good. You covered a lot of stuff that we did in like first year biology, so it's really advanced, the stuff that you covered. I think you mentioned at some point that the neurons that we were born with, like, are what we have throughout our life. But have you ever heard of like neurogenesis and like building more neurons? Specifically, like, I've read a couple articles about new neurons being built up every day in the hippocampus. So I don't know if you like researched any of this.
I believe that she may not have that understanding definitely, Oishi. And also it was a kind of belief or kind of no evidence that much in the past that neuron can be regenerated, but definitely it is proven that it is true that it is regenerating. But please say something. I don't think that Reanna can say that much, but whatever you know, please explain to everyone.
Okay, no, I was just asking. I was just wondering if she knew. I'm no expert either, so.
Well, but anyway, it is true that it is not only that, they are trying for stem cell also.
Yeah.
So stem cell, they are embedding into some parts, but it is not still generating that much. You know that we are doing some clinical trial with spinal cord patient. They inserted the stem cell into the neuron, you know, that into the spinal cord, because when spinal cord is injured, there are lots of fiber is died. At the same time, some of the spinal cord neuron is also died. So they try to regenerate this communication. However, it was only one, and it was on the way the clinical trial was stopped, but it is going on. And also in case of Parkinson disease, there are some place called substantia nigra. That area neuron is a lots of neuron dies. They are inserting some stem cell to improve that area. However, the way you say it was orthodox way. In the past, it was believed that no neuron is being kind of created. Whatever is created during the birth is birth. But yes, but I don't think it is true. It is being kind of proven that it is improving. Okay, anyone interested in neuroscience? I am very much kind of influence you. Go to UFT. There is a course called Neuroscience 101. It is online, as well as you can go to the class. Tonu and Aditi, you need to ask some question because they also attended this class. Tonu and Aditi, say some question. But I know that they went there only for certificate, not to learn anything. Because whenever you are attending that class, if you are attending, I think 11 class out of 14, they are giving one certificate that you attended this course. So if you are attending that course, that's great. But what you know, Tonu, say some question.
I don't have any like questions.
She forgot everything. So Aditi, again.
Oh, so your presentation was really engaging. It was actually more engaging than the core neuroscience thing that we attended. And I think I actually learned more from your presentation than I did over there. But like, yeah, it was really good.
Thank you.
Josh, conclude that. Ask or say or something that you to just close the session.
I don't really have any questions, but yeah, that was definitely a well done presentation.
Okay, thank you, Reanna. And are you focusing for neurosurgery?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay. Don't hesitate to ask me question to help. Okay, because I can help on this a lot. I know in Toronto University, I know most. I mean, I think that I know all of the neurosurgeons. I mean, professor, not the junior one. Junior one, I don't know, but all the professor I know. Okay, so contact me if you are interested in. Okay, see you then. Okay, we are closing this one as recording.